everyone, it's Sarah again. So my exploratory project so far has been about fear, and it's been a wild ride. So let's look at the journey that I've gone down since the first day of the semester. I've analyzed fear in the context of Frankenstein, Symposium, Keats, Carnival, The Tempest, Gandhi, Borges, All About My Mother, and Battle of Algiers. So it's been quite a few texts, and I've been able to find a lot of cool stuff about fear. So let's look at what I have gotten so far. I first looked at what the best way to deal with fear is and what to do when you encounter it. I saw that Keats' speaker in When I Have Fears uses the method of suppressing fear, which doesn't end up benefiting him in the end. Rather, it inhibits him from growing and strengthening himself as a person. I analyzed Carnival, on the other hand, as if she were a real woman, and came to the conclusion that she would accept her fear of society and, ipso facto, improve herself and her confidence. This then led me to analyze whether fear is a good or a bad thing, so I looked at fear in the context of Gandhi and All About My Mother to determine that it is in our power as humans whether we fear well or fear badly in a given situation. Prospero demonstrated fear of confrontation and used this as a mechanism toward reaching justice. So fear in this scenario was good and achieved good things for Prospero, which proved my hunch that fear is not always a negative emotion. So if fear can be used both positively and negatively, what or who determines which way it goes? Do we have a say in this? Do we have control over whether fear lifts us up or brings us down? Those are the kinds of questions I explored next. I drew a correlation between fear and personal strength by looking at Frankenstein and the Battle of Algiers. I compared what happened to Victor versus the wretch in Frankenstein and saw that there was a drastic difference between their relationships to fear based on their individual personal strength. Victor is overwhelmed by fear and thus much weaker emotionally than the wretch is because the wretch does not fear the events of the world. Similarly with Victor, the Algerians become paralyzed by fear and thus fall into a rut of helplessness. This led to my next main idea, that fear can be exercised virtuously under virtuous conditions and similarly viciously under vicious conditions. This is an idea that suggests that people ultimately have control over their strength and whether they will let fear hold them back from doing great things. My last essay really drove this point home as I drew a double comparison between Victor and the wretch and Borges' sorcerer in Circular Ruins and his creation. Basically what I found was that the first couple had a bad attitude towards fear and ended up miserable in the end because of it. Borges' couple, on the other hand, had a great attitude towards fear and ended up living happily ever after, for the most part. Then I closed my academic writing career with my favorite thing I've done in this class. I incorporated my classmates' opinions on Carnival in my essay to drive the point home that everyone has a different opinion and is going to have a different attitude toward everything that comes around in life. That's just the way it is. While it is valuable to analyze fear within the context of literature, this project has meant much more to me than that. By evaluating fear present in literature, I've been able to apply it to my life, whether it's fear of encounters or fear of another class, or fear of relationships, or just general life struggles. There comes a certain time in life when you can get caught up in all the things happening around you. The personal problems of friends, of family, significant others, so much so that you can forget to focus on yourself. You deserve the time and attention that you've been avoiding because of fear of letting others down or from fear of future events. Perhaps the problem that Sethe had was that she just gave too much love. She focused on her children to such an extent that they became her best thing, and she was so blinded by the fear of them having to suffer as slaves that she didn't give them a chance to breathe and possibly grow strong and free. It took her so long for her to finally love herself and let go of the fear she had of her children not being happy. No one can have a perfect life, but that's all Sethe wanted for her children. It's only when Paul D says something that Sethe finally realizes that she is enough, and that this fear she's been holding on to has been nothing but destructive. You, your best thing, Sethe. You are. Sethe displays that you have to be selfish sometimes. Too much selflessness, and then all you're made up of is the people you cared for. You become those others. You lose yourself. Sometimes you have to look at yourself once in a while and see how you're doing. This is something I've been doing during my time so far at Whitman. I've been cognizant not only of what my friends are up to, but also of the way I've been handling things. And when a class gets tough or a boy hurts my feelings, I look at myself and I decide then and there what attitude is best to use to approach these obstacles. Fear of events that you have no control over is distracting and only exists to test your strength. Pay it no mind, and instead, let that fear motivate you to accomplish that which challenges you. It's kind of like worrying. There's no point in worrying about something if you know it's going to happen anyway, so why worry? Instead, make the most of what's put in front of you. The first day of classes here scared me when I sat down in my encounters class. I feared a lot of things. I feared that this group might not vibe well together, that the workload would be too much to handle, that Edwin would end up talking during most of the class. These things scared me, and I decided right then and there that I wasn't going to let this be a bad experience for me. Instead, I powered through my fear and let it motivate me to strive for success. Something else to keep in mind, too, is that every day is a new beginning. A mistake Vladek makes in Mouse 1 and 2 is that he lets the nightmare of his past days interfere with those of his present. Getting hung up on past events, especially if they bring you down, is unhealthy. Embracing the fear that comes along with living in the moment is liberating and totally worth it. These videos I've been showing are clips of my time at Whitman with my encounters, friends, and others. We've had an absolute blast this year, and we have gone through so much as a class together, and I will dearly miss Encounters Z. The year is coming to a close, though, and we've got a new chapter to start in our lives. Thank you for everything, Encounters Z, and good luck in the future. Me and you, we got more yesterday than anybody. We need some kind of tomorrow.